Hello, everybody. This is Alia Jamal, the love coach, and we are meeting for another love circle. And today we are talking about creating healthy boundaries. This is one of my personal favorite topic because when I started my journey, I had no idea what boundaries are, and I didn't even know how to where to even start. So that can happen to us when most of our boundaries have been violated, or we never felt worthy enough to sit down and do something for ourselves. Maybe we've been so busy doing things for others, but we never actually paid attention to ourselves. So that's what my past life used to be. If that is where or how you live, you are going to learn a great amount of um, stuff or knowledge or new awareness from this conversation. So first, let's look at what a boundary is. Boundary is a sense of safety around us. It feels like I am safe when I honor that boundary or when someone honor that boundary. So think of it as if you're standing in on the beach and you draw a line in the sand and no one is allowed to cross that. And let's say if you're in a dangerous situation, that's what makes you feel safe. Hey, I have this circle around me and I know no one can enter within it, and that's what makes me feel safe. And when we don't have boundaries in place, when that is not how we are looking at our life, we feel anxious, we feel worried, we feel fearful at all times. And it can sometimes create that cellular stress in our body that we are not even aware of that it actually exists. It's almost like a feeling that there's a lingering danger all the time, but we cannot see it, we cannot feel it, we cannot pinpoint it. And that comes from having very loose boundaries or having no boundaries or never even looking at your life like that. Now, one of the big reason we never sit down with ourselves and decide, okay, that's how things are going to be, because there's a fear of being a difficult person, fear of others rejecting you, fear of other people saying, oh, you're just such a stuck up person. Why things have to be this way? So we don't want to be judged by others. So we just play complacent. Okay, I'll do whatever you ask, and never really voicing what we truly want. And the problem is not too much of getting rejected by others. The problem is our relationship with ourselves. When you have never looked at yourself, you're somebody worthy of speaking up or standing for something, you are not going to create boundaries, or you're not even going to pay attention when those boundaries would be violated. Now, one thing I want to highlight, we violate our boundaries first before other people violate them. For example, let's say if I love to sleep at 10 o'clock, and then somebody calls me at 10 and they're like, hey, do you want to go out for ice cream? And then I don't want to say no, so I would just say, okay, I'll go with you. And then I'm up till 1 a.m. So I violated my boundary. They didn't. They were just asking. I could have said no. So it's me who's doing it against me. Now, if this is something that happens once in a while and you tell yourself, okay, I'll just do it one time because I would like to hang out with my friends too, that's a different story. But we are talking about habitually putting yourself last and everybody else putting first. So that does create a sense of not feeling enough, a sense of low self worth. And also, it does create a sense of fear, anxiety, or worry in your body as well. So, what are the different kind of boundaries that we could look at? There's so many different ways you can look at, but you first have to sit down with yourself and ask yourself what is important to you. Be very honest with yourself, because if you're not being honest in this exercise, nothing is going to change, because you will just keep that way of looking at things. Everything is perfect. No, I want to be a flexible person. I don't want to be seen as a hard person, because maybe when you were little, that is the programming you received. And that is never the right type of programming. That is a programming of control where you might be getting controlled culturally or in your own family setup. So you would be a complacent kid and you won't give a hard time to your parents. So they teach you, no, you need to abide by the rules that we said, and you're not that important. Bend, flex, bend backward to please the people, and then you'll be a good person. And that is just like, the generational stuff we like to pass on to our kids without even realizing how it will impact their own emotional well-being when they're adult. So now that we are adult, it's our responsibility to look at that. So right now, look at all the relationships in your life and also your relationship with yourself. Where do you go against yourself and you have not fixed it yet? And where do other go against you and you don't let yourself speak up? These are very easy questions where you can look at your own life and you can get honest with yourself. Where does these leaky spot even exist? So first you find that, and then we are going to move to 6 different categories of, there could be more, but these are the random 6 categories we are going to go through to just see what kind of boundaries you already have and what kind of boundaries you would like to set up. So first one is emotional. So emotional boundaries would be where you can communicate to somebody, hey, this is how I feel, and this is how you're making me feel, and I don't like it. For example, if somebody is making fun of you, somebody is just like, teasing you and it's emotionally disturbing you, a lot of adult bullying exists. Bullying does not stop in high school. It continues in college. It continues in professional workplace. I got bullied a lot in my early 20s. And at that time, it felt so weird, but my mind just couldn't tell what's going on. Because again, back in the day, I did not have any healthy boundaries within myself. I didn't even know what boundaries were. So when these other adults, they were violating them, I just didn't know what to do because they have been violated my whole life. Um, so that's where it becomes challenging. So we have to ask ourselves, when do I feel bad when someone treats me a certain way? Acknowledging that, giving yourself room and space to even feel. Because sometimes we just tell ourselves, it's not that bad, it's okay. Why do I have to be so hard? No, be hard. Because this is the discovery process. Ask yourself, what are the things that other people are saying to you, or how they're making you feel that you would like to change? Because that's where you can communicate. So, in terms of your emotions, how would you like to feel around other people? And what are the things that you might already know that they do or they say that you would like them to stop? It happens in siblings a lot. They love to joke around and they love to make fun of each other. Sometimes it happens between partners as well, intimate partners, that they think it's funny, but it's not to make fun of somebody else's food, but they think it is funny. So look at all those places and what are the places where you would like it to change, where it impacts you emotionally. It makes you maybe sad, it makes you angry, and you want to change it. And you would like to stay in a place of happiness, peace, or joy, or whatever your favorite emotional way of being is. So look at it in your whole life, everywhere, and then you decide that. And the next one could be, one thing before I move on. So if you were raised by parents who were not very emotionally stable, they used manipulation, anger to control you, you might not even know uh, what you want in this category. So a good way to test it is this something you will say to a 5-year-old? Is this something you will do to a 5-year-old? The way you're talking to yourself, because there's a little child within all of us and it's still there. That would be a good way to tell, okay, if this I should be saying or they should be saying to me or not. So that is how you can have like a guideline to even know if things needs to change around you, especially the ones that impact you emotionally. So the next one would be physical. Now, again, if you were physically abused or even sexually abused, you might not know what boundaries are when it comes to physical, um, comes around your space. So, again, sit down with yourself and think of yourself as a 5-year-old. From that place, what kind of physical boundaries you would like to have? Would you like somebody to just, hit you on the head a little bit just out of love? Or you wouldn't want that. So just pay attention to what's happening right now. Do you feel like your physical boundaries are pretty solid right now? No one is violating your boundaries, and you're not giving anyone permission to do that either. Like you can see it. Okay, this is happening, it's wrong. This is not happening, so it's perfect. So look at your physical boundaries. And the next one could be sexual boundaries. Sometimes what happens when kids, they do go through sexual abuse, when they become adult, uh, they don't know when to tell the other person to stop, and it creates a conflict and a guilt within them. Should I go for it? Should I not? Should I tell them? Because that boundary got violated on such a early age. So it kind of distorts what healthy would be for us. So again, look at yourself and ask yourself, if I am a 5-year-old child, how would I like to be nurtured in this intimate setting? What would I like to truly experience, and what I would not like to be experience? So this is an exercise with yourself where you're just looking at your own boundaries. This is not, you're not going out yet and telling other people, hey, I want you to change all that. So you're not going completely rogue on your partner. This is just you looking at yourself, where you are, how you feel, being very honest with yourself. Again, if we don't become honest with ourselves, we are not able to create any kind of change. So honesty is key here. And again, if you have been a person that, as a child your boundaries were violated and everybody just did whatever they pleased with you, then it is going to be a challenging exercise with you. And if you would like to reach out to me and do this process together, please by all means do that. The next one could be a workplace. What kind of boundaries you would like in your workplace? And it could be, doesn't have to be in an office. Maybe you're working from home and then your employer keeps giving you 10 hours workday. And that is just way too much work for you. Or also look at it, how much you demand from yourself to work. What kind of boundaries you have with yourself? Do you just let yourself work all the time? Do you give yourself some space to breathe? So look at all the boundaries that exist around your work and play and fun. Or are you a workaholic? So if you're a workaholic, there's definitely no boundaries around how much time you're supposed to spending just working. Or it could be with your coworkers, maybe the emotional boundaries with them, the way they talk to you. It could be maybe the way everyone else is getting promoted at work and you're not, and you are never speaking up about how much promotion you're supposed to be getting as well. So right now, again, we are not going and talking to anybody. You're just doing this exercise where you are in these boundaries. If they don't even exist, right, that they don't even exist. And how would you like it to be? To a level where it will make you feel comfortable and safe being in that environment. What would you like it to be? Okay, so the next one could be material possession. For example, you know, are your friends allowed to borrow your car? Is your spouse allowed to borrow your car? Or your kids or your other family members? Are they allowed to borrow your car? What about your clothes? What about your home utensils? Or what about your shoes? Maybe your friend want to borrow your shoes and you don't want to. So whatever your possessions are, what kind of boundaries you have there and where would you like them to be? So for me, my favorite possession is my books. If I lend my book to somebody where I tell them, hey, I need it back, so that is me setting a boundary. I would like it to be back. But if I'm just, I have read a book inside out and I have pretty much memorized it and I'll just give it to somebody to read and I'll be like, take your time. If I need it, I'll just ask you. So that is me again creating boundary. And I learned the hard way that I actually needed boundaries with my book lending. In the beginning, I didn't know. And once I started experiencing and I wanted my book back, but I didn't have it. So that's where I learned, oh, I need to place these boundaries. So look at your life, look at whatever your possessions are. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's not that you're being materialistic. You you want to give yourself room to have whatever you want and have it the way you want it. And letting go of the fear that what others are going to think about you. We did a whole training about that. If that is where you're stuck, send me a DM and I will send that training to you. So the last one could be time. So with your time, what kind of boundaries you want to have with your time? Do you want to wait if somebody doesn't show up? For example, if I am showing up for a session and a client doesn't show up for 5 minutes, generally I leave. Sometime I leave. I wait till 10 minutes and then I just exit. I move on and I start doing other things. That is the boundary that I have created. So I can keep my schedule in a structure. And then how do you handle when your friends don't show up on time? How do you communicate it? Where it is right now? Are you always the first person? Are you always the last person? Where you are with time. When you tell yourself, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and then every day you're waking up at 7 a.m. or maybe 8 a.m. Where are you with yourself in terms of boundaries in that area? And what would you like it to be? So now that you have like this is where I am and this is where I would like to be, you have that down on paper. So now we are going to get into how to create healthy boundaries. When it comes to boundaries, what I have personally experienced and what I do see in people generally, what happens if they have not done this deeper level of healing and they have been abused in all these area, maybe physical, emotional, and time wise, and getting their boundaries violated a lot, they go into a very abrasive way of being and a very harsh way of being, where it's my way or the highway. And that's not a healthy boundary. That is where we start cutting ties out of anger. So that means there's a good amount of anger that needs to be processed, that needs to be understood. Again, if that's where you are, please reach out to me. We can process it together. And if you want to, so a lot of people create boundaries from that place. That's why sometimes boundaries get a very negative uh, you know uh, image as well, that, oh, would this person think they are, or those boundaries are hurting us too, we feel guilty after that. So that is not a healthy boundary. And the reason I'm just talking about it, in case that's where you are, let's switch you to healthy boundaries. So healthy boundary would be something that is definitely making you feel safe, but it's also kind to the other person. So generally, when someone violates our boundaries, we think they are the bad person. We want to blame them. We want to say all kind of negative thing about them. But understand, each and every person is unique, and we all have very different level of tolerance, I would say, when it comes to different boundaries. For example, one person might get offended by some kind of, emotional words, but the other person might not. For example, I stay away from all kind of curse words. If someone is cursing up a storm, I would like to leave that space. While somebody else might not. They might be completely okay with it because I have different boundaries when it comes to language than someone else. Doesn't make them a good person or a bad person. We both are equal. So when you are ready to set these boundaries and you want to set them in a healthy way, the first thing to remember is we all are equal. Even the person that's driving you crazy is just as good as you are. You're not any better than them. They are not any better than you. We are all equal, but at the same time, we are different people. So understanding that if someone is making fun of you just because they think that's funny, there's nothing wrong with that. In their mind, how they're looking at it, there's nothing wrong with that. You need to communicate with them, hey, I don't like it. And then we'll talk about if they don't stop, what you can do. But first, you need to communicate with them that you don't like it, but without the judgment. So the first part would be introducing understanding others. If there is a part in your life where your boundaries are getting violated, understanding them. And then setting a kind boundary. For example, if your friends just have a habit of texting you at 10 o'clock every Friday night while they know that you go to bed at 8 p.m. and they just want to hang out at that hour. So a kind boundary would be, instead of telling them, you guys are a bunch of loser and I am good and I sleep early, I wake up early, I want to be somebody in my life, instead of saying all that, you can communicate with them, hey, I prefer to sleep at this hour. I would love to hang out at 6 p.m. So that is a very kind boundary that you're creating with them. You're communicating it with kindness, but understanding is the key. Whenever you want to create a boundary, understanding is a key. If you're creating a boundary out of anger, it is not healthy. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for them, because unconsciously you're going to feel guilty every time you'll be implementing that boundary. And there will be a big chance that you will go against yourself. That's why it's so important when we do this work. It seems a very, minor and small and not significant, but this is very significant because you're giving yourself your own words. You're speaking this, you're saying, this is what I want. And if you go against your own words, you're betraying yourself. You're losing trust with yourself. So unconsciously, it can chip away on you in terms of how much you trust yourself, how you see yourself, your self-image get distorted, your self-worth get distorted. So be very careful with this process. Maybe take a week, a couple of hours on the weekend to carefully go through all these different categories and even more categories. So in order to prevent going against our own self and betraying ourselves, we want to start with understanding, and we want to create a boundary that would be kind to you and that would be kind to the person that's around you. So it's coming from understanding. So that's how we create boundaries, from a place of kindness and from a place of being healthy. Now, what about when people don't honor the boundaries you have created? For example, you told somebody, like, don't send me a text message 1,000 times, and they keep sending it. They don't honor that. The first step would be to communicate. Now, again, we don't communicate a lot of times because we rather ignore it than communicate it, because communication can lead to maybe a bigger argument. So you're creating that yourself. Give everybody benefit of the doubt and communicate it, but communicate it from kindness. Hey, as I've told you in the past, that when you send me text message maybe 10 times, How about you send it only one time? If I don't respond, that means I am busy, and I would highly appreciate that. Whatever language you speak, soften it up as much as you can, but from a place of understanding, not from a place of sarcasm. So, from a place of understanding, from genuine kindness and understanding, communicate it. Now, let's say you have communicated, and after that, they still keep doing it, the same thing over and over. Um, that's when you can remind them again. So I'll use a different example. Let's say back in the let's say till yesterday, you were hanging out till like midnight with your friends, and now you have decided to have a different lifestyle. So you would tell your friends, hey, I am going to start sleeping at 8 p.m, so I will not hanging out. I'll not be hanging out with you. So communicate your boundaries, that this is what I want. When you show up in front of other people and you communicate, this is what I want, it it doesn't just impact you, it inspires another human. It is a big thing, it's not a small thing. It inspires another human to do the same for themselves. They might be like, making fun of you at your face, like, who you are to say all these things, but it inspires another human on a very deeper level. When you have the courage to stand tall and just say what you want, it's a very courageous thing. So, whatever boundaries that you're going to create after today's exercise, and that does involve other people, communicate it with them. If they violate them, remind them from a place of understanding and kindness. And if they keep violating them, depending on how much you're getting impacted, that is where you stand up for yourself. Is it a person that you need to distance from? Is it a person that you need to completely cut off from? So if it is a friend, it is so much easier. But sometimes if it's family, it's a little bit harder. But then you do the pros and cons, like keeping them and them talking you down all the time. Is that really helping you or helping them either? So that is where you make the decision. Do you need to put some distance? Do you need to talk less? Instead of talking every day, do you need to talk once a week? So you make that evaluation. But when you are taking these steps, they're benefiting only you. They are not like, having a direct benefit to other. Yes, they are getting inspired on a different level. But when you say, this is what I want for myself, you're increasing your trust within yourself. You're increasing your self-image. You're increasing your self-worth. And all of those things positively impact you where you're headed in your life. And if you're feeling very comfortable and safe, and you know that you got your back because you are going to honor your own boundaries, with that kind of conviction, with that kind of energy, you can literally create anything in your life. When we are having hard time in moving forward in life, generally we got a lot of unhealthy boundaries within our own self, where we say we'll do something and then we don't do it. Where anyone can walk into your home anytime and then you're sitting there entertaining them. Somebody will say, hey, do you want to hang out with me? And you'll just go with them. So that means there's no boundaries, or there are boundaries and you're violating them. You don't honor your time. You don't honor your emotional well-being or your physical well-being. You'd rather be just serving other people and not taking any rest for yourself. So all the boundaries that we are creating, they benefit you directly to become a higher version of you, because we all require some kind of sense of safety around us, or in a way of feeling of protection that no one is going to come between me and I'll be able to keep moving forward. So you're creating space around you for you to expand, for you to grow. And if we don't implement any kind of boundaries, if everything is loose in your life, there's not enough of space for you to expand. Everything is like, convoluted together then. That's when our mind goes into confusion, and then there's no progress. We are stuck in confusion or doubt or worry or fear or anxiety. So creating healthy boundaries with yourself are so important. So one thing I can tell you, once you do this exercise, once you go through this, the hardest part is going to be you staying committed to these boundaries, because you're literally changing who you are right now to a different version of you. And if you decide that you would like some help staying consistent in that manner, or you want to discover why it's even hard for you, reach out to me. It's just one conversation. I'm here to help you becoming a better version of you, becoming a higher version of you. So you really get to feel and dream and be whoever you want to be. So reach out to me. If you create these boundaries and then in a week or so you feel like, okay, you're not even honoring them, there's something deeper that we need to work through. So reach out to me, book a call with me, DM me, and we can work on that. So with that, we are concluding creating healthy boundaries. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and anybody on Facebook, post them right here and we'll talk about them. I am sending you all a lot of love, and I'm sending you a lot of energy to actually do this exercise and hold yourself accountable to creating healthier boundaries with yourself, because that is how you make sure that you keep walking the path that your soul came here to walk. Sending you love. Bye.